So what do we notice? Well, we see Mary Magdalene was one of the last people at the cross on Good Friday as Jesus died, and is one of the first people at the grave when Jesus has risen again. She has the privilege of seeing the proof of Jesus rising again, and she goes to tell the others. She finds Simon Peter and another disciple, and they just can't believe it for themselves, and so they go to the grave to go and take a look for themselves. And as they're worrying about who ran faster and who got there first, they don't stay too long and they go back. But Mary stays. She doesn't rush away from the moment. She lets out her emotion and her grief, and that is when Jesus appears. Jesus could have appeared at any moment, and yet that is the point when he appears. She's not the kind of person that we would have placed our bets on to be the first seer and witness of the biggest miracle and moment that would change the whole of history. She wasn't seen as important. In fact, she was almost the opposite. The surprising thing is that Jesus could have appeared to anyone at any time and said anything. And Jesus doesn't do anything by accident. Jesus didn't choose to show and appear to the 12 disciples. He could have done that when they appeared at the grave, and yet he doesn't. He appears to Mary Magdalene. It was her that Jesus chose to pass on this message of grace and love for the whole of humanity, past, present, and future, that would change the world forever. He gave it to her. He trusted her, and it was her gift to share with others for the first time. She had this amazing news, this awesome, freedom-bringing, amazing news that Jesus is alive, that death is defeated, that love has won, that life to the full is ours for the taking and the sharing. What a privilege to be able to share that with people who have never heard it before. This is what Bear Grylls says in his devotional book about this. Of all the people he could have picked, Jesus appeared first to Mary Magdalene, not a senior disciple, a leading Pharisee, or even his mother. He chose to make his first appearance to a woman whom no one in the world rated as important. In the culture of the day, a woman's testimony would not have been considered as weighty as a man's. Or to put it another way, if the disciples had been making the whole thing up, there's no way they would have said that the first appearance of this risen Messiah was to Mary Magdalene. But Jesus chose Mary, the loved one, the forgiven one, alone in a garden with gentle love. Why? Because Jesus rewrote the rules about equality, justice, and love. He chose someone whom the world considered unqualified for the task, because that is what love does. Sometimes sharing about Jesus can feel difficult, especially when people haven't really heard much about God and faith and church and Jesus. Sometimes actually they've had negative experiences or heard negative things about church and God and Jesus and all of that stuff. But actually, I really want us to be encouraged by this passage this morning and to not feel defeated by that. I love it when I get to ask young people, what has been your experience, or what have you heard about Jesus? And so often what they have experienced or heard about Jesus is positive, even if some of the other religious stuff they have a bit of a negative take on. And it's great to be able to listen to their experiences and what they've heard, and also to be able to share a little bit of my experience and who I know Jesus to be. To be able to share that actually Jesus was someone who spent time with people who no one noticed. He healed people that everybody avoided. He loved people that everyone had given up on. He gave hope to the hopeless. He fed the hungry. He stood up for the people who didn't have a voice. He told selfish people in authority where to go. And if that wasn't enough, he wasn't just a man, he was God in human form. Here to say, I don't know what you've heard about me, I don't know what you've read about me, but I'm here to show you who I am and what I love. And if that wasn't enough, He chooses to suffer and die so that we can know God, so that God can be with us wherever we are, wherever we're going through, in our homes right now, so that forgiveness can beat our shame, and so that we can know that we are utterly loved. Today we get to be some of the first sharers of that good news to others, just like Mary Magdalene. It's a challenge, but it's also a privilege. And as a diverse community here at St Paul's, we celebrate that the good news is good news for everyone. So maybe you've been watching this and maybe you don't normally do church or faith or all of this stuff, but you're kind of just taking a look. Maybe you've not been around it for a little while and you're just kind of peeking in and taking a look again. And maybe you're wondering, is this good news for me? And the answer that we see so clearly in our passage is yes, this good news is absolutely for you. Maybe you've been around church for a while and you've really needed to hear and to take that on for yourself, that the good news is good news for you. Maybe some of us are wondering, actually, do I really have good news that is worth sharing? And we see in our passage the answer is absolutely yes. And so as we absorb the good news for ourselves, we have a spoken word that Alex Carter wrote a few years ago that we filmed that is based on this passage that we've been looking at today. And so as we watch and as we listen, may we catch the good news with both hands for ourselves and give it away with open hands to others.
There stood a cross where Jesus was. Between two criminals was the chosen one. Nails held him to a tree so he could die for you and me. And in mercy and humility he died to set us free. His crown of thorns was so much more than the pain he wore at his majesty, but he took the shame and bore it all till he died surrounded by mockery. After death, when he took his last breath, darkness filled the land, for the sun could not shine in the heavy hearts of the people who watched him die as planned. Their hope was gone, for he was the only one, for he was God's son. For what they lacked in faith, here was shown, for God's plan wasn't over yet. For on the third day we will see of his love, as he did as before he had told. On the Sunday the women went to the tomb to see where his body lay, and as they arrived they saw something strange. The stone was rolled away. They went in to see what was going on, and saw that his body was gone. Then two men who gleamed like lightning suddenly stood beside them, and in terror and fright they bowed their heads as the men spoke clearly to them. The women went on the way to spread the good news. He is alive, he has conquered the grave. Many didn't believe what the women had said, for they had seen him die for themselves. So Peter went back to see the tomb and found the cloths on the floor. His body was gone, so he was confused, but the proof was in the open door. Now we've heard the story, what do we do? And who can we relate to? Are we like the women who believed he had risen without needing to see the proof, sharing what we believe with people who don't listen just because we know it's the truth? Do we take our faith into our own hands, even when it sounds crazy, or back away from it all and keep it inside because it's just a bit scary? Do we have obstacles only we can see that stop us from sharing this love? Work, studying, pressures and pain, loneliness and business can be some. But these cannot stop how we share this amazing thing, for inside we have the power of the King. We can find small ways to spread this good news, and this is my challenge to you. Think of how I could share this love in small ways to show people Jesus died for them too. Believing without seeing is my next challenge to you. How do you know that something's shining down when it's cloudy and grey? Is it really there, or has it gone and hidden itself away? But we know that the sun never disappears, never vanishes, and is constant. And we can know this about Jesus too, because although he died, he rose again, for he loved each of you. He conquered the grave and is constant in our lives and in our hearts too. And he loves us and would love us to love him too. And although it's hard and people in life seek for the truth can be found because in Jesus is where lies the proof.